Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I really enjoyed visiting with Jordan Blissett when he and Lake Pickle joined me on this show. We know we're going to have a good show. We know we're going to have a great conversation because we love the outdoors. We're passionate about conservation efforts in this state, and when our voices can get together on something, I think it's important, and I love to have them weighing in. Listen, are you looking to purchase the perfect piece of hunting property, upgrade your farm equipment, or have you been dreaming of owning a slice of heaven out in the country? Look no further than Mississippi Land Bank for your financing needs. For more than 100 years, farming families and landowners in North Mississippi have turned to Mississippi Land Bank for all kinds of financial solutions, whether it's for land, equipment, or livestock. For more information, visit mslandbank.com or go by and see one of their friendly staff at any of their offices. Mississippi Land Bank, thrilled to have them as one of the sponsors for this show. And now let's move on. As I have mentioned at the first half of the show, my friend William McKinley, head of the deer program for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And he's a regular on this show because he is such a powerful leader in the state when it comes to conservation and someone I really enjoy visiting with. William, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Ricky. Hey, did you know deer season opens tomorrow?
Say it again? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I said, did you know that deer season opens tomorrow in most of the state?
Isn't that exciting, man?
Isn't that exciting?
So, we just had a velvet season. We'll talk about that. We'll get up to speed and all that. But listen, I was looking this morning at the weather situation and what are we looking at? It looks like the first couple of weeks of October will be a little bit warmer than usual, sort of like last year. But then we start seeing some fronts starting to come down about halfway through the month, and then we start seeing some cooler weather. It looks like we're going to continue to see those fronts coming down well into November and from there. But it's great. It's a little hard for me to be out hunting when it's so hot outside. I've always just when you've got to bring mosquito protection with you when you're hunting. But yeah, you're right. Bow season starts in earnest, and we've got a lot of bow hunters in this state. We just had that antler season. How did that turn out?
It went good, Ricky. 291 bucks recorded, harvested across the state. Only a handful of counties did not record a single harvest. So some of the counties out there like Wilkinson, Yazoo, turning in double-digit numbers. So it was good. And hey, I've seen some really outstanding deer posted. 2 deer, a typical 10-point from Adams County that went into the mid-170s according to their score, and then a non-typical out of Warren County that looks to be well over 200 inches. Some very impressive deer killed across the state. So
one of the interesting things about the velvet season, and you can describe this way better than me, but I'll just give the headline and then you can add to this. But what we see is in October, there's a transition that occurs. And especially in the areas where I hunt, where there's a lot of farmland, you see a lot of deer that you don't typically see during the season there. Now, they might come back during the rut, but this velvet season is an opportunity to maybe get some deer that are not going to be there during the heart of the deer season. And, when in some cases, they're gettable. And so,
yep.
So these big deer that you're talking about, they may not be as stupid once you get into the season.
Well, Ricky, just through the study that MSU did on the Big Black Corridor, they had all of these bucks, 50 plus mature bucks wearing GPS collars a few years ago. And they saw some shifts in movement. A lot of those shifts began to happen around October. Then there was another over in December. There was another later than that. But in September, those deer they're very patternable. They're doing the same thing every day. So when a hunter finds that, this 3-day season had a very high success rate. So I encourage more hunters to take advantage of it in years to come. It was very successful.
Yeah, that's really good to see. Listen, one of the cool things about Jordan and I talked about their Speak the Language podcast, and you were on a recent edition. So I really want to encourage people who have not gone to their favorite podcast platform and downloaded that show, Speak the Language with Jordan Blissett and Lake Pickle. I think you should. But you were on a recent one. And as Jordan and I were talking about, is they're doing these deep dives. They're really going back into history, and I love the way that they're doing it because they don't go into these assuming they know anything. They're going into it saying, "Hey, man, I got a lot to learn. Help me understand this story from the beginning." But for young people who see the deer populations really from across this state being at these high numbers, maybe historically high numbers, they cannot appreciate what the commercialization of deer and what the
Right.
all of that back in the day, what it did to really decimate the deer population in Mississippi. It's great to remind people in a deep dive like you did with Jordan and Lake what that history is all about, isn't it?
It is, Ricky, because it's, within that podcast, we took it from 1900s market hunting to when our agency was formed in 32. There was no game and fish agency before 1932 in Mississippi. And then the season structure, and then to where, as we move forward, we're restocking efforts, and then got a few too many deer, then got a lot too many deer in some areas, and started, imagine they compared it to us, well, the thought process there of suddenly telling people they needed to shoot does after protecting them for so long, it was a big paradigm shift in deer management. And, look at what we've got now. Counties that used to not have a deer in them are now having trouble keeping them out of their gardens. So people don't have to go very far to deer hunt anymore.
Yeah, it's a hell of a story Mississippi has to tell. You think about Aldo Leopold and Fannie Cook working together and all those great stories. Mississippi really was, I call it the capital of the outdoors in America, but really the capital of conservation efforts in America. Great stories to tell. But you know what, buddy? Again, you can't appreciate where we are now if you don't look back and see where we were and see the importance of conservation efforts. But at the same time, our conservation efforts have been so successful, whether it be how to grow big horns or whatever it might be, that now the deer numbers are where we got to be more aware that part of the conservation effort as it relates to deer population in the state of Mississippi is we got to constantly be aware of getting that number down. And that's now become a big challenge for our state, hasn't it?
It is. It's just another paradigm shift, another chapter in deer management. We just got our numbers last week that we run with our population reconstruction, and they're showing a record high deer population for our most recent estimate. And that number is been steadily trending upward. Hunters are, and let me say this, our deer hunter numbers are bucking the national trend. We're keeping a lot of hunters. Our hunter numbers were a little higher in the 90s, but this is like the second highest they've been is the past few years. So we're holding on to hunters. We've got high deer populations. We got more older bucks in the population than we've ever had. But hunters are shooting fewer deer per hunter. And one of the things I'm encouraging folks is we don't need to go out and try to kill every deer we see. That is not the message we are sending. But if the average successful hunter out there could take one more deer, they're taking 1.6. And the mid 2000s, 06, 09, 10, that time they were taking about 2.2 to 2.5 deer per hunter. If we could bring it to that, we get this population under control, and we get to keep all these older bucks that we're dealing with now, that part. So we just need hunters to take a few more does out there. And the average hunter, one more deer this season if you're not reaching your bag limit. I'm not telling people to go over the bag limit, Ricky.
Yeah.
So,
hey, listen, what's interesting is, as I have learned from you, and as we have focused more on managing the deer herd on the farms that I hunt on, last year on one farm in particular, we really worked hard. That we had the opportunity to bring like kids over there or kids over here, but we made sure we directed them where we were doing the most management, and we were able to do really well. It's going to be very interesting actually to see, in actuality, now that we had such a good year last year, what does it look like this year? Was there a lot of backfilling that happened and other does that come in from, because there's some farmland near there, and we get a lot of deer that come in for that, and there's a lot of habitat. So I suggest they'll probably be staying around. We'll see how that works out, but I can't wait to see what we see. Is our buck to doe ratio and more in better alignment than it was in years previous? This year we're focusing on another piece of property, and so that's where we're gonna be directing during, especially the youth season. We're going to be directing as many hunts that direction, especially as it relates to the doe side of things. But that's the way you have to do it. You have to be very cognizant of what you want to do and where you want to do it, and managing that population. That's how you do it. Hey, when we come back on the other side with William McKinley, we'll continue our conversation about the upcoming deer season. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the SuperTalk Outdoors. Appreciate you joining us from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, in a world where honesty and dependability are rare, Austin Seals and Jordan Blissett of Open Season Property stand out with their commitment to integrity and hard work. With a background in agricultural science, marketing, and hunting land development, this team offers a real service that you can rely on when buying or selling real estate. Whether it's your family property or your first piece of ground, they understand the significance of every transaction. Specializing in recreational land, poultry farms, investment properties, farm and timber lands, and more, they are here to meet all your real estate needs. Give Austin Seals and Jordan Blissett of Open Season Properties a call and experience the difference. Again, we're thrilled to have Open Season Properties as a major sponsor of SuperTalk Outdoors. Now back to my friend William McKinley, head of the deer program for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Hey, listen, I mentioned at the beginning of the show I have orange on today as a reminder that we got to always put safety first. Man, we can't talk enough about that, can we, William?
We can't, Ricky. Just from tree stand accidents to hunting accidents, but if you look at it over a whole, hunting is one of the safest sports out there. But we can't get complacent in that. Keep that gun unloaded when you're putting it in a vehicle. Make sure that you're attached to that tree from the top to the bottom. Use those safety lines. It's a cheap piece of insurance.
Yeah, and that's so true, man. We get busy and we get, it's just a ladder stand. I'll just, once I get up in it, I'm good. Man, some of the biggest disasters happen missing a step on a ladder stand, or maybe the ladder stand's got a bad strap or something like that. We just got to, if we just say we're going to always put safety first, then we'll put safety first. And then you won't have an accident, or you won't have a close call, and you won't be in a position where you potentially are literally change your life forever, and the people around you just don't want that to happen. So listen, we talked about deer population and everybody doing their playing their role in helping us manage the herd. What's it look like in terms of hunter numbers?
So the numbers are good, Ricky, and we've held our own in hunter numbers. We still have a high number of hunters. We're bucking that national trend. And hey, look at how many days we offer to deer hunt in Mississippi. It's 142 days of deer season. That's 39% of the whole year you can hunt a deer in Mississippi. So we give them ample opportunity to go out and an ample bag limit with 8 deer in most of the state. So,
wow, that's amazing. Okay, when you look ahead, when you think about with bow season starting tomorrow, give me a forecast for what you think the upcoming season is going to look like.
So, Ricky, compare this to last year when that drought was impacting us being able to plant plots. Think of that drought and all the dead trees you've seen from central and South Mississippi down. Much better growing conditions. It appears we have, where I've looked, a really good white oak acorn crop this year. That's going to pull deer to those white oaks. Then the other thing, though, is all those dead trees, while that was devastating that the drought caused, there is a silver lining there from a deer end, because it put more light on the ground, and we now have a lot more ground cover, thus a lot more food. Deer should be very healthy this year. The reports I'm getting from cameras are showing, I would call, above average antlers. Antler growth looks really good. I'm hearing really high reports of fawn crops. Now, we talked about deer population. That means it's going to grow a little faster even. So I still encourage hunters, take extra dough if you're not reaching your bag limit. But overall, I'm anticipating a very good season this year.
I remember so well last year. I mean, we went into planting season on the heels of this like outrageous drought. I mean, it was historic in a lot of ways. And, the good for us is that about 75% of our food plots we're now drilling. We're drilling the food plots. But even under that scenario, William, we were drilling down into super dry land. Normally what you'd be doing, it might be dry on the surface, but when you drill, you're getting into some moist ground. And, the food plots did fairly well. They weren't great, but they did fairly well. But the problem is when you do fairly well and you get some deer pressure, then, you get toward the end of the season, there's not a lot of browse left, on those food plots because they're under so much pressure. My son Jordan made the point the other day that we've had good rains in the deltas, in the areas where we're going to be planting food plots starting this weekend, for a matter of fact. We've had good rain. So while it might be a little dry on the outside, when we inject that seed into the ground now, because the ground's not as hard, it's going to go a little bit deeper. It's going to be a little bit moister. I think the drill is going to work really good for us this year. I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. But the food plots in general, all across the state of Mississippi, just ought to be better this year, don't you think?
Yes. Simply put, yes. People are already sending me pictures that planted back in September. And those are up, growing, look gorgeous. I mean, there are going to be a lot of deer harvested on those plots starting tomorrow.
Yeah. So listen, we're out of town, but listen, in a week or two, we'll have you back and we'll update people on chronic wasting disease. I said at the beginning of the show, the most important thing we could do is reduce the prevalence. Try to reduce the spread. We know how to do that. We got to do that. We got to be much more diligent about that, and then wait for science to catch up. But we'll be talking more about CWD in the near future. Have a great day, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day, and we'll see you next Monday. God bless you, and always put safety first.